August 25th, 2017.
Whoa, and this is Nerd Bourbon episode 12. I'm your Dunk Master, Seth Sturgill.
And I'm Todd Sturgill. How you guys doing? I hate you so much.
How are you doing today, sir?
Pretty good until you ruined my day with that.
I'm sorry. Would it help if I included a snippet of the Space Jam theme?
No. Just make it worse.
Anyway, let's jump right into this shit, man. I don't have any discourse. I mean, right before we started recording, we were talking about different types of toilet paper and pooping techniques. But let's not grace the people with that discussion.
It's a very important topic.
Let's. I want to talk about something we've been enjoying lately, a practice, an ancient ritual that we've been calling upon, which we like to refer to as broken Left 4 Dead, which we've alluded to this on previous episodes, I think, that we've been messing with it. Basically, what we do is we mod the ever-living fuck out of Left 4 Dead 2 and just break the shit out of it.
Yeah, we actually try to get the same mod so we kind of get the same experience.
Yes. I actually just recently turned it on before we started recording to give you guys a run-through of the mods that we're running. So I run informal skyboxes, which for me doesn't really make a huge difference. It's basically just a skybox mod where the skyboxes supposedly look better. I don't notice a huge difference.
Yeah,
but
I actually don't have that. So
yeah, I think I'm probably going to take it off. Actual Cannibal Shia LaBeouf, which is a sound mod that plays when the hunter jumps. It plays clips from the Rob Cantor Shia LaBeouf song.
It's incredible.
Which is good.
It's incredible.
I have a mod called 50 Chips Pills, and basically what this is my pills that are in the world. Whenever I pick them up, they look like a random variant of a set of 50 chip bag textures. That range, like, you can get chips from, like, the 70s. It's incredible. My machete is a kingdom key from Kingdom Hearts. All of our common zombies are Zoidberg. I think I mentioned this when we originally talked about it. All of our common zombies are fucking Zoidberg going, whoop, 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 whoop. It's so good. Which I know you run that as well. I think we both run Painus Cupcake as the witch. Yeah. My axe is Marceline's bass guitar from Adventure Time.
My axe is a gravity hammer from Halo.
Beautiful. Our jockey is Diddy Kong. Whenever I throw a pipe bomb, the explosion is the "surprise, motherfucker" line from that meme.
Beautiful.
I think we both at this point run the Master Sword and Hylian Shield for the katana.
Yeah.
I have a team health counter mod, which is actually kind of useful. I like that. Gives me a better read of everybody's health.
Okay.
And I think we alluded to this in the last episode too. We have that credits song, "Sweet, sweet, sweet victory."
So good.
So good. Shrek tank, because come on, if you're not playing Left 4 Dead, that was actually the first thing my girlfriend, when she saw me playing Broken Left 4 Dead or whatever, she just goes, "Let me guess, fucking Shrek is the tank."
The thing is, though, we didn't realize it was going to have sound files.
Yeah, so you can hear in the distance All Star by Smash Mouth when he appears. You can actually hear that in the distance, and then you'll hear him going, "What are you doing in my swamp?
Donkey?" Like, it's so good.
Donkey! Oh, it's so good.
Man.
All of the survivors are Velociraptors.
We both have that, yeah.
Which is a legit good mod. I actually like that mod a lot. The Charger has a rainbow following behind him when he charges.
Not only does he have that, but we also have him as a...
I was getting to that. Yeah, our Charger is fucking Machamp from Pokemon.
So good.
Yeah, the jockey wrecking ball music. So whenever the jockey mounts you,
jamming like a wrecking ball.
I'm gonna save this next one for last. But we have the spitter is Sandy from SpongeBob. The boomer is Wario, because we went through and we just wanted to make sure that we had random mods for each of the special infected. The smoker is Shaggy. I have my Left 4 Dead 1 survivors set to a collection of knights from Dark Souls.
Yeah, my Left 4 Dead 1 survivors are Futurama characters. So
I think I have that one too. I'm just not running it right now. We have the safe space song from South Park. Whenever we enter a safe room, you gotta
thank me for that one. I found that motherfucker.
That's a good one. Last but not least, we have the hunter is Elmo. Now, the reason I wanted to bring that up specifically is because the running Broken Left 4 Dead breeds a lot of good moments. But my favorite moment that we've had running Broken Left 4 Dead by far was, I don't remember which map we were playing. Do you?
Passing, I think.
The passing, that newish one.
Yeah.
There's actually been a couple of new maps that we like didn't even know existed,
Yeah,
right?
we actually just did another one where it was like, was it Cold Stream or some shit?
Cold Stream or something. Like, what the fuck? When did they add this?
But as we were playing Cold Stream, I think we were like, the fucking level design on this is kind of garbage.
Yeah, it kind of sucked. Like, didn't know where to go several times. Anyway, that's besides the point. During the passing, there was this moment where, we're just, we're mowing down Zoidberg zombies left and right, and I think we had like the horde come to us, so we're basically just like, even playing on like easy, it's like really difficult, and we're all like super low health, and fucking, of course, out of nowhere, what do you hear? Shia LaBeouf. Fucking like rounding the corner, you just see this evil Elmo jumping around and jumping on us and trying to murder us, and like, so we just gun it down, and I just had this moment, like, we're just sitting there with our velociraptor asses just looking at Elmo's body in the rain.
It's so good.
And I just had this I was like, wow, this is kind of like weirdly just to see Elmo's just this, like, it almost looked like a screenshot from like a movie, like a Neo-Noir Elmo murder movie. Because like Elmo's just laying down in the rain, and these velociraptor, almost like we were velociraptor detectives, looking at his body. And I went to take a screenshot of it, and it caused my game to crash. So that's Broken Left 4 Dead in a nutshell.
Yeah.
We've been enjoying it. I know you've been playing Little No Man's Sky.
Yes, out of boredom. Yeah, I bought that game, like, actually when it came out, but I never actually fucked with it.
So did I. I actually, when that game first came out, I was one of the few defenders of it, because I think No Man's Sky, for all the hate it gets, I think that game is exactly what it wants to be. Nothing more, nothing less. It's fucking fine.
Yeah.
It's not great, not a great game. It's fine. I think between my girlfriend and I, we spent like 50 to 60 hours with it, and we actually ended up platinuming the game. I think that game's fine for what it is.
It's a good game for when you're bored as I am right now, because it's just like
Didn't they add a bunch of new shit?
Yeah, I haven't got any of that because I'm still like kind of fresh. Right. Like, you can actually like terraform shit now, which I'm looking forward to grabbing that device. But no, there's just a lot of stuff they did add. But honestly, all I've been really doing is just walking around, Minecrafting it, basically.
Well, and that's kind of what I relate that game to. I'm like, this is basically Minecraft in space.
Yeah.
I'm like, and for me at least, I'm like, what's wrong with that? You know what I mean? Like, and this is obvious. People came into the game with really high expectations, and maybe that's the fault of Sony, and maybe that's the fault of Hello Games for kind of perpetrating the game for something it wasn't. So there's a whole series of news articles you can read about that, right? I mean, for me, I came into the game with basically no expectation, and I had a fine time with it.
I'm having fun with what I'm doing. So
I know you wanted to talk about Overwatch.
Oh,
a little bit.
And you will soon enjoy this as well. Next time you actually sit down and play with us.
Yeah, I haven't played Overwatch in like a few weeks.
Yeah, so our mutual friends always have been trying to get us to play competitive Overwatch. I don't know. I feel like I was like jokingly online, like appearing online, because jokingly. I don't know why I said that, but because
because you're never appearing online, maybe.
So, if you go on like my PSN, it's like he's been offline for like 5 months.
Offline for 5 years.
Yeah. So I was like online. It was rare, and they messaged me like Overwatch, and I was like, yeah, shit, why not? Not expecting to play competitive.
I told them that you were off work for a while too, and I knew you would always be down if they asked.
So yeah, I jumped in, and they're like, "You down for some competitive?" And I was like, I just told them like, oh, fuck, I guess let's fuck with it. Because the main reason I guess they wanted to have me jump on is they needed my certain skill set.
I have a very particular set of skills.
My damn good Reinhardt. But no, I guess like they've been having like really shit tanks when they were playing, so they wanted like a surefire.
It's forever the issue, right? It's forever the issue with Overwatch.
They needed
no tanks, no heals.
Yeah, they needed to get that tank main in. So yeah, we jumped in. I destroyed, and it's actually like, again, people take it more seriously, and I actually kind of like it because they actually want to win.
Yeah.
They actually stay behind my fucking shield for a change. It's incredible.
I know that's like the most unilaterally frustrating thing for Reinhardt players.
Well, yeah, that's the deal. Like, Reinhardt is borderline useless if you don't have a solid team behind him.
Right.
Like, yeah, I mean, if I get in there, I can do some damage, but like, what's the fucking point?
Yeah, he's not a DPS character. Mm-hmm. He's a defensive tank.
Yeah, honestly, I think you're gonna like it a lot more than you think. When we actually sit down and fuck with it,
I'm gonna give it a try. I'm for sure gonna give it a try whenever we play next. Because I mean, I've always been like of the mind that I've never been a competitive player, and so competitive mode doesn't sound appealing to me because I'm just like, okay, these are gonna be a bunch of people sweaty in their mom's basement, just like trying a little too hard and playing like bitches. But it sounds like that's not the case.
Everybody's playing like bitches.
So I guess we'll see. I'm willing to give it a chance. And really, your word was the one that kind of set me over the edge on it, because I know you and I felt the same way about competitive Overwatch. Yeah. So I'm definitely willing to give it a chance. I've been doing a lot of shit this week. Like, just in the few days off that I've had this week, I've just kind of fit a lot of shit into it.
Oh, I know.
It's weird. I don't know. I've just been very active this week. I got the podcast for last week done really early, and I just have had a lot of opportunity to play games, and I watched the new DuckTales show, the first episode of that, and that was really, really good.
Yeah, from what I heard over the mic, sounds good.
No, it's good. It's well animated. It's funny. It's I really like the way they're treating some of the characters. Webby in particular, I really like the way they're handling her, because Webby was never like in the original show, and I grew up with the original show. It was one of my favorite cartoons. I really loved all of those Disney afternoon cartoons growing up, DuckTales being chief among them. And I don't know, like the way they handled her in the original show, she was just kind of the tag-along female character. Good character, but she didn't have a whole lot of texture. Well, now she does, because now she's like the biggest fan of like Scrooge's adventures, and she knows like every little detail about everything, and she's kind of like the fangirl, right? But she can also hold her own, fucking Mrs. Beakley, and she fucking the nanny essentially, or the secretary, or whatever you want to call her, who is now built like a tank, and taught her how to fucking hold her own like in combat. So it's cool. I like the kind of different take on some of the new characters, and David Tennant as Scrooge McDuck is wonderful. He's just like perfect. He just perfectly fits into that role. I like the kind of story implications of it. The first episode ends with a really nice cliffhanger. I don't know. It's just good. It just perfectly captures that sense of adventure that DuckTales has always done really, really well. Because that's what I always loved about DuckTales, is like, that's basically the best Indiana Jones show that we never got. You know what I mean? One minute you could be, in these Aztec ruins. The next you might be in the jungle. The next you might be, every episode had a completely different flavor, and I really like the way that this new show captures that. It feels like a really worthy follow-up to it, and I'm really excited that kids today are going to be exposed to a special show like DuckTales. As far as video games go, I finally sat down and played Telltale Batman Season 2, Episode 1, The Enemy Within, and man, that's really good. That's a really, really strong intro episode. Man, you've really... I keep hassling you to finally play the first season, and you still haven't.
Yeah, I own it. It's just I'm lazy.
It's so good. I mean, the first season is so good, but the second season, just that first episode of the second season is phenomenal. It really is. Like, and I said this to you as soon as I finished it. I was like, I think this has the potential already to be my favorite Telltale series.
You know what it really is? It's not that I'm lazy. It's more or less like I need to be in a certain mood to play a Telltale game, and I haven't been in that mood in a long time.
I sort of understand what you're saying, but for me, for a Telltale game, like, I think the biggest hurdle is actually just starting it.
I feel you on that as well.
Once I start it, I'm in there. Right? Like, because I had a huge backlog of Telltale games that I wanted to work through, I think earlier this year. And I literally just, because when I was in the hospital, I had a bunch of days off of work, and I was like, you know what? There's like a huge amount of Telltale games that I have not played yet, like Game of Thrones and Wolf Among Us and shit like that. And I was like, you know what? I'm just going to do it. I'm just going to sit there and just play all of the Telltale games. And I did. It was wonderful. And anyway, Batman, though, Season 2, Episode 1, really, really strong episode, man. I really can't recommend it highly enough. I don't want to say too much. I don't want to spoil too much. I will say avoid spoilers as much as you can because there's some very, like, spoilerable moments in the game. I did have some problems, like some weird issues. I'm forever having... Like, Telltale has got to get their shit together on a technical level. I didn't really have any glitches when I was playing the game, or performance issues actually playing the game, but the game did not import my save from Season 1, which was annoying. And even when... So, to combat that, and I think they knew they were going to have a problem with this, they included a recreate feature.
Okay.
Where you select, like, I think 5 or 6 major choices. So it'll ask you... for example, during this moment, who did you save? What choice did you make during this moment? What did you do during that moment? Blah, blah, blah. And it goes through like 6 major moments or so of Season 1. And depending on what you choose, you can sort of get an approximation of how it would be if you were to import your save. So I did that, right? And I go to load it up, and it didn't fucking work. Because, like... I'm not trying to spoil anything or whatever, but like I load it up and I see that Alfred has an eye patch, and I'm like, what? that didn't happen. And I'm not, again, no spoilers, but my Bruce Wayne, there's a I'm trying really hard to dance around this. There is a physical thing that happened to my Bruce Wayne, a noticeable physical thing to look out for on my Bruce Wayne in Season 1 that was not apparent in Season 2. Even after I did the recreate thing. So I was like, okay, something happened. And I did it again and it worked fine after that. But I had to jump through all these hurdles. I had to restart that episode like 3 times.
Really? Fuck that.
Yeah. It was so annoying. But once I got it working, it worked fine. I think maybe the reason it didn't import my save from the first game is that I didn't have the first game installed still. I did still have my save data on the console, but who knows? Whatever the case may be, I have it working fine now. And it's really, really good, and you need to play the first season. I need to just... You got to do it. It's really, really good. And like I said, the biggest hurdle for me personally is just turning it on and starting it. Once you start it, I think you'll be good. You need to just force yourself to make that jump. Beyond that, another game that I played, I'm not going to spend too much time talking about it because I know that you hate it, but Undertale was released on PS4.
Hate is a strong word, all right? All right. I understand that game is probably a fantastic experience, a fantastic game. In the way, I'm gonna use a comparison I think that works out. In the way that hardcore Dark Souls fans ruined Dark Souls for certain people, that is what Undertale fans did for me. I just don't even want to fuck with it.
I can understand that. For me, I'd always liked it, so I bought it on PC when it first came out, and I was like, I played maybe an hour or 2 of it, and I was like, okay, this is good. I want to be sitting on my couch. And I know you can do the whole big picture mode and get the Steam box and blah, blah, blah. I'm never going to be that guy. So I knew it would eventually come out on PS4, and that's what I've been waiting on, and this past week, that's exactly what happened. So came out on PS4, I immediately bought it, even though I have the physical version coming from Fangamer in late October, but that's fine. I just wanted to play through it now, because I was like, I have the day off. If I don't play through it now, I'm never going to. What I didn't expect to play through the entire thing in 2 sittings. I got probably a solid 6-ish hours out of my initial playthrough. I did a pacifist run. Did not get the true pacifist ending because I wasn't aware that, even though I didn't kill anybody, I wasn't aware that I had to spend more time with certain characters that I didn't seek out in order to get the true pacifist ending. But whatever the case may be, that game is really fucking good. I don't want to spend too much time talking about it. It's really, really good. It's such a unique... That game is so, like... I think when I made my little platinum trophy post about it, I said it was relentlessly unique. And that's exactly what it is. Like, it is so... There is nothing like Undertale. You can draw comparisons to Earthbound, which is, like, one of my favorite games ever. Earthbound is again another super unique special game, and Undertale in a lot of ways feels like the spiritual successor to that, but Undertale is even more like unique than Earthbound is in a lot of ways. Just the gameplay, the way playing as a pacifist, and the sort of puzzle solving that every individual battle turns into, and the characters are so good, and there's so much heart in the game's story and in the game's lore, and it's just really good. And for it to all be spearheaded by like one dude who like did the music and everything, you know, he didn't do it completely solo, but that it's the definition of a great indie game. You know what I mean? Like, it's the indie king, really. Undertale is like it's really, really, really good. I'm not going to harp on it too much longer, but I just want to encourage you, if you have never even heard of it, which I can't imagine you haven't at this point. It's so popular, but just give it a shot. It's really good. I loved it. You're probably going to see it on my top 10 at the end of the year. Last game I want to shout out before we move on to our topics is a really good stealth release. Just came out yesterday, called Subsurface Circular. Have you heard about this?
I feel like I've heard the name, but that's about it.
It literally came out yesterday. It's by Mike Bithell, who independent developer. Are you familiar with Thomas Was Alone?
Yes.
So he's responsible for that. He did Thomas Was Alone. He also did a game a year or two ago called Volume. Both very good games. And this game he's been kind of working on in private with a small team for the past few months. And just yesterday, just out of the blue, hey, I've been making this new game, and here it is, and it's $5 on Steam. Very, very, and we've been talking about this lately, very low asking price. And it's a short game. The game's maybe 2 hours long. I think I clocked in at just under 2 hours for my playthrough, and it's one of those things where I'll probably give it another playthrough because it has developer commentary unlocked after the first one and blah, blah, blah. Let me not get ahead of myself. Subsurface Circular is a science fiction future detective game where you play as a robot detective. You actually get to choose the character's name. It's very player choice heavy. You are basically a detective that is sitting on this subway called the Subsurface Circular, which is a subway. It's almost like the what's it called? The Ginza or Ginza line or whatever in Japan, where it basically is just a circular track that makes stops in every major area of the city. Okay. And you are a detective that is geo-locked. And essentially you can't leave the subway until your investigation is concluded. And the game opens with you talking to... Basically, the main crux of the game is other robots, or techs as they're called in this world, enter the train and you question them. And you sort of... There are puzzles involved in it. Very kind of like light puzzle solving, nothing too crazy. I will say that it is some of my favorite type of puzzle solving, where like I actually had to grab like a pen and a piece of paper to like take notes and like help me. And I felt like a real detective, you know what I mean? I'm literally like taking notes what some of these people are saying so that I can use them in context later with another conversation. And the game opens with you talking to another tech, and he's like, "Hey, my friend is missing. Can you investigate?" And there's this whole kind of like, maybe techs are kind of like shunned upon by humans, and maybe humans look down on techs because techs are kind of like tools in this world. They're not looked at as equals at all. So like you'll see kind of identifiers when you go to talk to a tech. This might be an infantry tech. This might be basically a nanny. This might be a priest tech, you know? And the game is basically a series of detective work and puzzle solving and question asking and a lot of dialogue heavy things. And it has a really unique story wrapped around it that it tells in just the span of like this brisk 2 hours. The game looks really good because of how simple it is. It's just literally robots on a train, and the music is really solid. I think it's just a really, really good game. Like I said, for $5 for 2 hours, I love it. And this is another one. Totally, when Game of the Year time comes around, I'm gonna be waving the flag for this game. It's gonna be on my top 10 for sure. It's really, really good, and I love the idea. When the game opens, it says a Mike Bithell short, I think, and I love that idea. I love the idea of like $5, 2 hours. Here you go, 2 really, really good, well-designed video game hours. And it's great, and you should support it. I really think it's such a low asking price in terms of time and money, you really don't have much to lose. Especially if the description that I gave for it sounds interesting to you at all, check it out. It's really good. I don't have too much more to say about it other than that. I could go on and on about little design things about it, and I do like the story, although the story is kind of typical of this. Like good science fiction, though, it does comment on like real world things, like like it touches on sort of racism and injustice and corporate espionage and stuff like that, and all these things that are always touched on in good science fiction. Those are all here. I will say that the game ends with a very difficult moral choice that the player is required to make, and I really, really liked the game's ending. Anyway, $5, 2 hours, Subsurface Circular. It's on Steam. Support it. Check it out. I think you're really going to like it. It's one of the year's best, in my opinion. As far as other games, that's really all I've been playing this week. I know it's a lot. I did pick up Sonic Mania. I have not touched it yet, though. I'll probably have impressions on that next week. And I know you and I are both picking up Uncharted: The Lost Legacy, so we're gonna have impressions on that next week as well. I'm sure.
Yeah.
If not a fucking shots, I guess we'll see where we go.
It might end up being a shots.
Yeah. So that all will happen after you hear this, probably. Anyway, let's get into our topics. I think you wanted to go first.
Yeah,
right?
because I don't know. I can kind of get through this a little quick. So I've mentioned this game like every so often. Kind of like I've shouted it out in like the soundtrack episode. I shouted it out in like what we've been doing a lot. But I finally can say that I've like beaten it per se, because there is a lot more endings that I haven't gotten. But like I've gotten the main endings. So the game is Nier Automata, or Nier. Oh fuck! I'm not even gonna try to pronounce that word, but.
That's how I pronounce it, Nier Automata.
Yeah. So, I can finally say I've beaten it more than anything, because I've gotten the main 5 endings, A through E. And I kind of wanted to talk about it a little bit, like, overall. Like, that game is something special. Like, you'll see it, like, there's always a bunch of articles about that game where it's like, the game, like, a really good game that you'll never play.
Right.
Because it kind of, like, especially when it first came out, it kind of went under the radar a little bit. It's just a solid fucking game, dude. Like, you've heard me talk about it, like, how, like, each playthrough is a little different.
Yeah. No, it is one of those things that it is, like, when it came out, it wasn't really on my radar too much. I knew that it's Platinum, right? Platinum made it?
Yeah.
I like Platinum games for the most part. I think they've tarnished their name a little bit, but that's a topic for another time.
That's what
they really have.
Yeah, that's with a lot of developers lately. But
yeah. Well, Platinum just stretched themselves way too thin. But anyway, another topic for another time. I do want to check out Nier Automata. It's total like Black Friday bait. Like, I can totally see Nier Automata being like $20 to $30 on Black Friday.
And that's a good price for that game. It's just a solid experience. Like, because again, Route A, like, you're playing as the character 2B, and and then Route B, and then you have like a little partner 9S, and in Route B you actually play as 9S, and it's
well, what is, for people that don't know, before we get too deep into it, what is the sort of single sentence, like, what is Nier Automata?
That's a really that's a really good question. It is a damn. So it is a game. It is a so you're playing as androids for one. There's no humans. Mm-hmm. So it is you are 2 androids playing in a post-apocalyptic world, okay. And the whole point is you find out the story behind the post-apocalyptic world in the end of it.
Right.
Kind of find out that there's almost no point. Spoilers, but
Come on now.
But no, I'm talking shit. But again, I'm not going to try to spoil it a little too, because you are going to end up playing it. So I'm going to give it a little. I'm going to hold back a little bit. But like I will talk about like the different play styles between the characters, and I love that. Like, because Route B is completely different, because you are playing as 9S, and 9S is more or less like there's no combo. You can't really do combos with him. Like, he only has like one weapon. He doesn't have like, because the thing with 2B and even A2 later on in Route C, you have the ability to have 2 weapons equipped and 2 weapon sets, so technically 4 weapons equipped. You can technically have 2 weapons equipped, but you're not really doing like these sick combos with 9S. Like, his damage comes from the whole hacking mini games, which is like a bunch of
Okay.
like twin stick shooter shit.
Right. So that's one thing that I do know
Yes.
about the game. Is Yoko Taro, I think his name is, the designer who did like the Drakengard series and stuff like that in the first
Yeah.
Nier. He's kind of known for that. He's kind of known for putting like a lot of different sort of genres in one game and kind of like turning it on its ear.
That is another way to describe Nier. Nier just has like at one point you're sitting there, it's a regular or like RPG, you're just sitting there running around, and at one point you're playing a side scroller, and
Right.
there's like one level that is specifically like that, where you're just the entire level is you're a side scroller, and
Right.
then there's doing the bullet hell like twin stick shooter stuff, and that's a lot of fun. There's like, and even that gets changed up like in Route C, and I was just like, it surprised me. I'm like, okay then, all right. It just that game just blows my mind with like all like the really stupid shit that it does, but it does it so well.
So you keep referring to routes.
Yes.
And routes are basically like playthroughs
yes.
that are all completely
And
different
each of them
from one
have
another.
endings. So there's the Route A ending, the Route B ending, and then the Route C. Route C technically takes place. That's actually when the game. That's when you really start playing the game. Because Route C technically takes place after Route A and B. Because Route A and B are kind of like similar. Because you're experiencing it on in Route B. You're experiencing the game on 9S's point of view instead of 2B's point of view in Route A. And then Route C just is a continuation of that, and that's kind of where you can get to the true endings of the game. C, D, and E. E is the secret final ending, but it's the true ending. Yeah, it's just a solid fucking game, and I really would like to talk about it more, but again, I don't want to spoil it for you. I will spoil one thing for you, though, because I have told you about this. To a certain extent, I've told you about it, where like it deletes your save.
Oh, yeah, I think you did
and I
mention
kind of wanted
that.
to talk about it. So there's like two characters, like the two support characters that help out. Like both of your characters, it's like Pod 42 and Pod 153 or whatever. They're like your little like machine guns that fly around you, basically.
Right.
And they end up. It's basically like I want to say they end up like talking between each other, like they want to save these characters or whatever. It's like, do you want to fuck with it? It's like, yeah, sure. It's actually happening during the credits that like this conversation's going on. You're like, all right, cool. I wasn't even paying attention, so I just said, yeah, I'll fuck with it. And that's when it starts the most bullshit twin stick shooter that I've ever played in my life.
Oh Lord. I love a good twin
Bro,
stick
you're
shooter.
fighting the credits. The credits
Nice.
is just it's insane. You're fighting. You're legitimately going. You have to legit get through the entire credits as a twin stick shooter.
I like that.
I loved it. I loved it.
I'm about to say I would definitely try that.
But to anybody that did it by themselves, props to you. Props to you, because I'm sorry, I'm a little bitch and I had to make it trivial. So why you end up deleting your save is for this reason right here. Is it's like when you start dying, like it gets really bad, dude. It gets so bad. When you start dying a lot, it's like, hey, do you want some help? And I turned that shit down for a solid like 15 times. But I was like, you know what,
Right.
fuck this, let's do it. And that's when like 5 or 6 like people, basically their save game data jumps in with you, and like instead of shooting one machine gun, you have like 5 or 6 going crazy, just destroying everything. And basically you're not gonna die. You're not gonna die anymore. So you get through that, and it's like, hey, you want to
I think you told me about
it's like,
this.
hey,
yeah.
you want to help out anybody else?
Pay it forward,
Basically.
basically.
Pay it forward and like delete your save, upload your save data to the fucking credits here, and I'm like,
That's a really interesting idea, though, and a really interesting kind of like almost social experiment.
because I'm an asshole.
It's like what does that tell you about yourself, Todd?
You know what?
You'll take the help.
But here's the deal, dude. It was a hard decision for me, because I'm like, but what if I want to get the other endings, and I don't want to sit there and because
That's the
if
thing.
I delete my save, I won't have the ability to do the chapter select anymore. And with the chapter select, I can just jump in wherever I want in the game and probably get all these endings really easily. So I've thought about it. Like, if I end up like wanting to platinum this game, I'll probably get all the endings, and then I will delete my save.
Yeah.
But
well, at least you'll eventually do it, I guess.
But not right now. Made me feel like a fucking bitch because I'm like, oh, I took your help, but I did not give it back.
I like that idea though. That's a cool idea. I respect Yoko Taro's kind of like vision.
Yeah.
He does some interesting things that I like, kind of meta things that I definitely respect.
Dude, that's the main thing with a lot of his games.
I think Kojima is kind of the granddaddy of that, and he maybe took inspiration from him. I don't know, but it's cool to see people sort of carrying that torch.
But yeah, Nier Automata is a great game, and if you haven't fucked with it, fuck with it.
My topic this week, I actually sort of stole from Kind of Funny blatantly. We've done this a couple of times where we're just like, let's look at other topic-based podcasts and see what's worth talking about. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But this one, they literally just did like last week.
Oh Lord.
Here's the thing, though. I'm a huge Quentin Tarantino fan, so when I see the topic on Kind of Funny that says ranking the Tarantino movies, I'm like, okay, now you got me wanting me to do this for my podcast. So I'm sorry, Kind of Funny, but I'm stealing your topic. I want to rank the Tarantino movies. I love Quentin Tarantino. He's probably my favorite American director. I love him. I love any of these movies, really. I really kind of love them all in their own way. But I did want to kind of go through and rank them. When I was talking to you and writing out the show notes and getting your list, I was disgusted to learn that out of his 8/9 movies, depending on who you ask, you've only seen 3? Or 4, I guess, technically?
So here's the deal. I've technically seen some of it, obviously more, but I haven't actually finished watching them. Well, like with Pulp Fiction, I've started watching that, but I never actually got through it.
Ugh. You wound me. You wound me, sir. I actually just recently, I had this, it might have been the same week that I was off because of the hospital. I can't remember, but I was in like a funk. I was in like a depression or something. And I just took 2 days. I didn't talk to you. I didn't talk to anybody. And I just did nothing but watch. I marathoned all the Tarantino movies. That's all I did.
It's disgusting. But I actually remember when you did that, actually.
Yeah, I think it was like a few months ago. I just watched them all. So my memory of them is pretty fresh, but and this list is pretty accurate. Like I said, it could change throughout the years, like any great list, any great director, any great set of movies, but I really, really love his body of work. I'm a huge Quentin Tarantino fan, and always have been and always will be. And he says he's only going to make 2 more movies, so I guess we'll see. The next one sounds like it's going to be about like Charles Manson. I'm so down for that. So what I kind of want to do, I think since you've only got technically 3 items on your list here, what we'll probably do is I'm going to go through my ranking, and you can just sort of interject with the ones that you've actually seen.
That's fine.
Yeah, so we'll kind of do that. So I'm going to go from the bottom up, from my least favorite to my most favorite. At the bottom of my list is Death Proof. Are you familiar with this?
No, actually.
Death Proof is one half of this project that Tarantino did with Robert Rodriguez called Grindhouse.
Okay.
You remember Grindhouse?
Yes, I remember Grindhouse.
Yeah, Grindhouse is kind of like a double feature, kind of let's make 2 cheesy movies and put them and kind of smash them together in one giant double feature like the old Grindhouse cinema, which is fine. So Robert Rodriguez had Planet Terror, and Quentin's was Death Proof. Death Proof is not a bad movie by any stretch of the imagination, and there are some people who actually say that Death Proof is their favorite Tarantino movie. But that is not the case for me. It's a good movie. It has some great memorable scenes, and it has a great premise, but I don't think it ever quite lives up to it. I think the movie is actually a little too... It doesn't really achieve its goal of being that great Grindhouse movie as much as it thinks it does.
Okay.
It's a little, and this is weird. This is a weird sentence for me to say, but it's almost too character focused. Like, and I love a good character focused movie, but I kind of wish that the movie was more dumb Grindhouse, and a little in some ways, because that's what it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be a dumb Grindhouse movie, but it's almost too based on like the lives of these characters, and the movie does some interesting things, and I do like it overall. And Kurt Russell gives a really good performance in it. But not my favorite. Not a bad movie at all, but not my favorite. The next on my list going up is Jackie Brown. I feel bad putting Jackie Brown so low on my list because I do really like Jackie Brown.
Shit, wait up. I actually have seen Death Proof.
Oh, you have?
Yeah.
Oh, well, shit.
Yeah, I mean, I'll put it at the end of my list as well.
Oh, so you sort of feel the same way?
Yeah, I mean, it's fucking forgettable, apparently. Until you said Kurt Russell, and I'm like, oh, wait, that's right, I did see that movie.
So that right there should show you, I guess, how memorable Death Proof is. It, again, has some good scenes. There's that scene, I don't know if you remember this just by the description, but there's a scene where, like, this girl is dared to give Kurt Russell's character a lap dance.
Yep.
And it's playing Down in Mexico, that great song. And it's a great scene. But again, there are just a handful of moments like that are great, and not a whole lot of anything else. Anyway, Jackie Brown. Jackie Brown is the one movie. So all of Quentin Tarantino's movies he's written and directed, but Jackie Brown is the one that he is not responsible for the source material of.
Okay.
Jackie Brown is actually an adaptation of an Elmore Leonard book called Rum Punch, which he adapted for the screen. And actually, during this time in Quentin's career, this is actually, I think, right after Pulp Fiction he did this, maybe. I could be wrong in the timeline, but I think this is right after Pulp Fiction he did Jackie Brown. And during this time in his career, he was actually really considering doing more adaptations. He was actually, before they did Casino Royale, he was actually one of the people, he was going to do an adaptation of James Bond. We were very, very close to getting a Tarantino-directed Bond movie.
Really?
Which would have been really interesting. He would have played it probably much more violently. He probably would have been a little more brutal about his portrayal of Bond. I don't know who he would have picked. I think he said, actually, I take that back. I think he said he would have continued on with Brosnan, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong about that. That besides, Jackie Brown is a really good movie, but it's so, like, I call it a hangout movie, because the movie does have an overarching plot, but is a very slow movie that is just about hanging out with these really lovable characters. And again, it does have an overarching plot, and everything does feed into that plot, but the movie is just so, like, the best thing about it is the worst thing about it. It's slow. It's so, like, chill. It's such a chill pace, and it's like, you're either going to love that or you're not going to love that. And it does have the measure. There is something. Jackie Brown does have this, like, intangibility about it, where when you come to the end of it, it does feel like you've just read a book. It does not feel like a balls to the wall, typical Tarantino action kind of movie. It does feel like you just closed a book. And I have to give him credit for that. And Elmore Leonard actually said that it's by far his favorite adaptation of his work. I love Jackie Brown. It's not my favorite of his at all. And I do feel bad for putting it on this list, because Jackie Brown is such a unique movie. Quentin has said that if you like Jackie Brown, then you don't like his movies. So he loves Jackie Brown, but he's not, like, that movie doesn't feel like his movie to him, I guess. But I still, very, very interesting movie that I like a lot. And it's got this nice kind of, like, it touches on the kind of, like, blaxploitation kind of era of cinema really well. And, you know, amazing cast, like Robert De Niro's in it, Samuel L. Jackson, who is a recurring cast member in Tarantino movies. You know, Pam Grier is in it. Robert Forster is in it. Great cast. Great movie. Next for me is Reservoir Dogs. I'm surprised you've never seen Reservoir Dogs.
I think it's another one of those that I've started and never finished.
Yeah, Reservoir Dogs was his first, not technically his first movie, but his first big movie. He directed this, like, shitty short film called My Best Friend's Birthday, which was actually worked into the script for True Romance, I believe. My Best Friend's Birthday was just kind of like, he calls it his film school. He made one shitty movie so that he can go on to make good movies. So Reservoir Dogs was his first, kind of his big break, his big debut. Great movie. I love it. It is sort of the, when that movie first came out, it was unlike anything anybody had ever seen. It's that kind of, it's this good kind of non-linear storytelling that Tarantino is so good at, and you definitely see the seeds of it there with a great cast. It's a great movie, and again, memorable scenes. That's the thing about Tarantino. Tarantino knows how to make these. He's such a movie buff, and you know this if you watch 2 seconds of an interview with Tarantino. He loves fucking movies. He just loves movies. He knows what makes a great movie. He knows what makes a great movie scene, and his movies are filled with memorable scenes. And Reservoir Dogs is one of them. The scene with Michael Madsen's character with the ear, that famous scene where he cuts off the cop's ear and he's dancing around, you know, it's so good. Reservoir Dogs is a great movie. However, the next movie on my list, I think, is basically Reservoir Dogs 2, even down to having much of the original Reservoir Dogs cast in it. The Hateful Eight, Tarantino's most recent movie. It's essentially Reservoir Dogs 2 in a lot of ways. Totally different. It takes place in like the Old West. It's part of his kind of like, you know, kind of history trilogy, talking about, you know, Inglourious Bastards, Django, and Hateful Eight. He's done more of like historical movies. The Hateful Eight, though, does feel a lot like Reservoir Dogs, and essentially the crux of Hateful Eight is you lock these 8 people in a cabin during a snowstorm, and let's see what happens. That's basically what the Hateful Eight is. You almost never leave the, with exception to like flashbacks, you almost never leave the house. I think it's called like Minnie's Haberdashery or something like that. You never leave it. It's like a hotel or like a bar or something like that. It's almost like 3 hours of just a volcano slowly erupting. And Reservoir Dogs feels like that a little bit too, but The Hateful Eight is that times 11. It's kind of something to behold because like it's really good writing, which is always apparent in Tarantino movies. It's really solid storytelling, great characters, and just, again, memorable scenes. The Hateful Eight, it's long, it's slow, but in a weird way, it is one of my favorite Tarantino movies just because of the way it's written, and like you're really getting a chance to spend time with these characters, and it does crescendo into this crazy, I don't want to spoil it, but it goes to a crazy place. Really good. You should watch it. You should watch all of these, apparently. Next on my list is one that you can kind of speak to, because this is actually on the top of your list, Inglourious Bastards.
Yeah, Inglourious Bastards is my go-to. My favorite.
I was actually surprised to read that.
Oh, I love Inglourious Bastards.
I love it, too. It's high on my list. I like Inglourious Bastards a lot. I think Inglourious Bastards does, for me... it's a little bit. It loses its footing a little bit. It's a bit weirdly paced, but man, that is a great movie. You got to talk about Christoph Waltz's performance in that movie. Our first introduction to him, really, in America.
Speaking of memorable scenes, like that glass of milk scene.
Yeah, the way the movie opens. Again, this is just such a Tarantino stamp. It's these unforgettable scenes. You'll never forget that glass of milk scene. You'll never forget, you know, when the theater gets burned down and they lock the Germans in and they fucking shoot Hitler. It's so good, and like it's there are a couple things that like that are always, you know, the memorable scenes. The food. I always that scene where Hans Landa approaches what's her name? The girl that runs away from him at the beginning of the movie, and she like kind of does an identity change.
Yeah.
I forget her name.
Well.
Shoshana was her Jewish name. I don't remember her changed name. But the point is, I really like that scene where he confronts her in this like sort of like restaurant and buys her a strudel. And the way that man films that strudel, I'm like, God damn it, I want a strudel right now. There's just something about like food in Tarantino movies is always so good. Even in like Pulp Fiction, the fucking milkshake and the burger and the steak, I'm like, fuck, I want food right now. But yeah, Inglourious Bastards is great. Again, great performances. Like I love Brad Pitt in that movie. That's such a weird casting choice, but Brad Pitt was excellent in that movie.
Ugh. I actually kind of want to watch that movie after this.
It's great. It's a great movie. I love it. And I love, you know, again, great music is another thing that's always evident, and I'll talk about that a little bit more in this next one. This is another one that you've seen that is actually just under Inglourious Bastards on your 3 list.
My 4 list now. My 4 list.
No, 4 list now because of Death Proof. But Django Unchained. How do you feel about Django?
Django is Django. No, it's a solid fucking movie, and I love it.
When Django Unchained first came out, I saw it 7 times in the theaters.
I know. I think the only reason I saw it was because you were just singing its praises.
I love that movie. And again, I keep beating this dead horse. It is such a great just Tarantino experience. It is exactly what you want out of a Tarantino movie. Much has been said about, its use of the N-word and stuff like that, but he does not. If you think that Tarantino uses the N-word in Django Unchained more than was used in that time, you are sorely mistaken. It's great. The performances are great. The story is great. It's a really great hero's journey kind of tale. It's a great Western. He calls it actually a Southern, which I think is more appropriate. It deals with some pretty heady topics. Deals with some kind of darker subject matter, and it's just fucking fun. Like, Tarantino movies have such a great sense of fun more often than not. And like Django, the reason I saw it so many times in theaters, I saw it several times by myself. But I also wanted to I treated my parents to go and see it. I took friends out to go and see it. And I just kept singing its praises to everybody because I loved it. And that's what Tarantino movies do to me. They're just such a good time to watch. Any day of the week, you can put a Tarantino movie on the TV and I'm going to sit and watch it. It's just a good time. Another great performance from Christoph Waltz in this movie. Everybody's great.
Hey, if you don't shout out my boy Leo.
Oh, of course. Yeah, I mean, Leo, that scene, again, we'll shout it out once more. Amazing scenes in Tarantino movies when Leo sort of figures them out. And there's that amazing scene at the dinner table where he actually he smashes his hand down on the table, breaks his glass with his bare hands, and his hand is cut. Leo's hand is actually cut, and that was not scripted. Leo just did that, literally just smashed a fucking glass with his hand, and just kept going. And it's an amazing scene. He's bleeding all over the place.
That's so good, dude.
He's just bleeding everywhere, and Leo's just acting through it. He's so in that moment, He is Calvin Candy at that point. Like, he is that character. And that's the thing. Tarantino is such a great filmmaker who loves movies so much. He can bring that out in actors. He gets the best performances. Like, I love Leo, and there's so many great Leo performances. Up until and since, I've never seen a better performance out of him than I did in Django. And he should have won the Academy Award for that role.
I'm happy that he finally got it, though. He got it with Revenant, didn't he?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, he finally got it. That was kind of the classic. Leo's always getting snubbed for his Oscar, Ironically, I think Christoph Waltz won an Oscar for Django, if I'm not mistaken. And I'm like, really? He's great in the movie, don't get me wrong, but I'm like, Leo wasn't the standout for that?
Yeah, Leo was definitely the standout for me.
I digress. Django's a fucking great movie. I love the soundtrack of Django. It's got such a great, kind of like almost like soul kind of soundtrack to it. It's got a couple of great original pieces. I actually bought the Django soundtrack like instantly as I walked out of the theater. There are a couple of Tarantino movie soundtracks that live on my phone. Great movie. I love it. Next one, Pulp Fiction. My number 2. This is my number 1 for a really long time, and I flip-flop all the time between my number 1 and number 2 because Pulp Fiction is such a almost perfect movie. And this is the one where, like, when you told me you hadn't ever finished watching Pulp Fiction, I was like, okay, we need to do this.
At least I know, like, majority of, obviously, the memorable scenes, like, I think probably one of the most memorable scenes is, like, it's been used over in, like, multiple, like, forms of entertainment now is when they're in the apartment or whatever. Or that house.
The adrenaline shot?
No, like when they walk in, he's like eating that dude's like hamburger and shit.
Oh, the say what again?
That scene is like I know the memorable scenes like that.
Yeah, the say what again scene where he goes in and they're trying to get that case, and he's eating the hamburger and he fucking kills. Yeah, that's so many. Pulp Fiction, more so than I think any other Tarantino movie, has almost every scene. And Pulp Fiction is a memorable scene like that. Man, what more can I say about Pulp Fiction? It is a classic. I think Pulp Fiction is one of the very best American movies ever made. It is so good. And in fact, this is why I flip-flop, because my number 1, from process of elimination, you can probably tell by now, but my number 1, I love it, but I don't necessarily hold it in high as regard as Pulp Fiction in terms of like pure filmmaking. but I just love it for other reasons above Pulp Fiction. But Pulp Fiction is just when you talk about American filmmaking, you got to talk about Pulp Fiction. Yeah. My number 1, if you haven't guessed by now, is Kill Bill. And this, I think, is your number 3?
Yes.
So Kill Bill, you could... Actually, what they did with Kind of Funny's topic on this is they actually broke it up between Kill Bill Volume 1 and 2. To me, and to Tarantino, it is one big movie. So, for me, Kill Bill is my favorite for a lot of reasons, because you can just tell... So, Uma Thurman and Quentin Tarantino kind of really hashed out this story and this character of the bride together. And that comes through so much in Uma Thurman's portrayal of the character. Again, career best performance out of Uma Thurman. She has never been as good as she is in the Kill Bill series. Career best performance out of her. Career best performance out of a lot of these actors. Again, another amazing cast, another amazing soundtrack, which he worked with with the RZA from Wu-Tang Clan. I like Kill Bill so much because it feels like the most collaborative effort. So, like, you have the collaboration between Uma and Quentin. You have the collaboration between Quentin and the RZA on the soundtrack. It just feels like a kind of like a more bootstraps kind of movie. And it's just fucking fun. Like, the action in that movie is so good. Kill Bill has my favorite action scenes in any Tarantino movie. It is this sort of pastiche of, like, American cinema and Japanese cinema and sort of martial arts movies and samurai movies. And, it has kind of like a grindhouse kind of feel to it. I love it. It's so fucking good. And it has this like kind of hip hop soundtrack that a lot of people have ripped off. A lot of people have ripped off like the vibe of Kill Bill. Like you have like the Afro Samurais of the world, you know what I mean? Like that have kind of ripped off Kill Bill's kind of vibe. But Kill Bill, man, so good. I love it so much. And I love the story. It is such a classic revenge tale, but it just crescendos into this like really personable story about this woman trying to, you know, kind of right her wrongs and find her daughter. And it has a terrible Superman analogy in it. I'll say that. I hate the Superman analogy in there.
Was there a Superman analogy? What?
There is. There's a whole scene in Kill Bill Volume 2 where Bill is doing you can look it up. It's a little monologue he has about Superman, which is completely incorrect. But it should have been a Batman analogy. I digress. It just pisses me off as a nerd. It's so good. I don't have enough nice things to say about Kill Bill. Kill Bill is the one. If you show me Tarantino's entire catalog and you say, "Hey, we're watching one of these with a giant fucking bowl of popcorn. Which one do you want to do?" I'm gonna say Kill Bill. Kill Bill is just so much fun for me. I love it. Do you want to say anything about Kill Bill?
Well, that's a good, like, shit. You've kind of covered everything. It's a good way. You basically have said everything that could possibly be said about Kill Bill. About any of these movies. That's all I'm kind of just staying quiet, listening, enjoying the show. I'm listening to this shit live.
Yeah, no, I don't like dominating the conversation or anything, but just there are certain topics like the Zola topic and the Tarantino topic here that I'm just like, I'm really passionate about it.
Oh, it comes through, and I enjoy it personally. Again, I just kind of, sometimes I just shut off and I'm just sitting there listening. But yeah, you basically have said everything about Kill Bill, and it's just, yeah, it's a fun fucking movie.
I love it. Kill Bill's the one where like, I'm like, after we record this, I want to watch Kill Bill.
And yeah, like, again, like having it, like, you know, considering it like one giant movie, because I do as well, is... Yeah. I don't ever just watch Kill Bill Volume 1. I watch both.
Yeah, they do have different vibes, but they were filmed back-to-back, and they were released, I think, just months apart. Yeah. So, and pretty much afterwards, they released it in theaters a third time as The Whole Bloody Affair, which is like 1 and 2 mashed up, and it is like a 3.5-hour, 4-hour movie when you watch both back-to-back, but... It's great. I love it so much. And again, Kill Bill's another one. I have the soundtrack on my phone. It's just everything that I love about Tarantino movies is accentuated in Kill Bill. And there's a real heart. Kill Bill is like a stupid movie in a lot of ways, but there is a heart and soul in Kill Bill that is there tangibly. And I love it for that. Mm-hmm. I don't really have anything else to say. I love Tarantino movies so much. Like I said, I just recently watched them all, so they're fresh in my mind. So for now, at least, and maybe this will change later, but for now, that is my list. And I'm afraid it's final.
Oh, I hate you.
Anyway, Anything else you want to say before we wrap this thing up?
No, I think that's about it.
Good shit. Get fucking dunked on. We'll see you guys next week. Bye.
Skate 4.
Another one.
Yep. See ya.